And we are live on Oz Property Investor. We bring the big names and we have the big fun. And the audience is swelling. The crowd is going wild. How you going, James? What's happening?
Good, Jeff. Yourself?
Yeah, I've got my Airbnb
Sorry to
party
bring the
shit.
energy down there.
Yeah, I know. He's got to match your but that's okay. I'm going well. It's beautiful winter's day here in Sydney, whereas I think you're over across in a different part of the world, which is quite lovely in summer. And it's probably sunny till 7 or 8, 9 o'clock at night. So good times. How you going anyway, Joe? How's your day been, man?
Mate, my day's been fantastic. Very busy day. I've been watching the comments of this session, and James, the Airbnb expert, has been rattling a few cages. This is a more contentious topic than I initially expected. So I'm excited to kind of dive into
where the value Joe, did you not read the comments after you did that post 2 months ago? Did you not read people slamming you about it?
That was contentious. But how are you, Jeff, most importantly?
No, I'm pretty good. As I said, yeah, the sun was out. It was a beautiful winter's day, and living the property dream as we all are. And let's talk. Excited to talk about every Wednesday night is an exciting one for me. And hopefully the Australians get a win in the cricket. Not that anybody cares except me and maybe a few other couple of billion Indians give a crap. Anyway, let's get into it. So quotes of the week, gentlemen. James, you want to go first?
Yeah. What was it exactly? It was a man that works all day has no time to earn any money, from John Rockefeller.
Ooh.
So
I like it.
The thinking is, if you're too busy in your business, or if you have a job, you don't have any mental energy to think about ways to earn any real money. Like, if you're obviously trying to earn real money, you need to free up your time, to free up your mind and be able to action big things.
I really like that one. Yeah, I can see how that can happen. It's so easy to get caught up in the minutiae of the day-to-day, and then it gets like 8 p.m. at night, and you're like, oh, I just can stop working now. And then you're like, well, I just need to veg out. Like, I've been so exhausted. I don't have any time to do anything else. And then those are the opportunities where you should be, profiting and making money for yourself rather than, making your boss rich or how can I grow my business? I like it. What about you, Jeff? What's your quote of the week?
I just wanted to throw in a couple of ones that, when you said that quote, it reminds me of the old the chestnut Jay-Z said. That's not my quote, but I'm not a businessman. I'm a businessman. So that's kind of expanding out. And it also, another quote that reminded me is, if you don't have sort of 5 minutes to meditate, then you need to meditate for 10. But those aren't my quotes, but that just reminded me. So my quote is from Benjamin Graham. I was going to say Benjamin Franklin, but so he said, successful investing is about managing risk, not avoiding it. And I think that's very apt for this session, because a lot of people have said, oh, management fees are exorbitant and council's going to change the rules. And there's all these, and it's just all these negative sort of points to shoot down Airbnb or short stay rental or short-term rental, whatever we want to call it. And it's just like, yes, those are challenges, those are issues, but as long as you can manage that risk, then that's all these reasons shouldn't be the thing you shouldn't invest, whether it be whatever you're going to do.
Yeah.
There's always a equilibrium. If something is making something more difficult to do, the profits are probably going to be slightly better on the other side to compensate.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I totally agree, because I think about it. Getting a loan is so damn annoying. And I see so many people that try and go through the process of getting a loan, or try and go through the process of buying a property, and then they hit a wall and I just don't want to do any more paperwork. I'm going to give up. So I always I get to the point where I'm like, I want to give up. And then I'm like, you know what, actually, I bet 10 other people have given up. They're now no longer competition. If I just push forward, I'll be the one to kind of keep going. I don't know if that helps. That's not my quote of the week.
Once it was like progress. It could be applied to anything, to like music career or anything. And then it's like, as you just start to curve up, or be this way for you guys, like as you just start to curve up, this is like where people start to give up, because it's like you get kicked down and then you skyrocket. So it could be applied to probably property investing or business for me, where it's like you're just about to automate almost everything, then you hire an employee, and then all your time is free now. and you can make so much more money because it doesn't take you more time per extra thing that you do in your business. Like an extra Airbnb, it doesn't take much more time for me to manage now that I got the systems in place.
Leverage, baby. All about that leverage. Which ties in nicely, because this is what I wanted to talk to you about. Is my quote of the week is: a business will grow up to its constraints and then it will grow no longer. That is by Alex Hormozi, who is actually really interesting kind of character. But your constraints are on you, whatever your constraints are as an individual, as a business owner, as a person, as an investor. Like, you're the actual, if you think that you're actually the constraint, you'll hit a wall. And it's only until you hire someone you'll hit a time constraint or a money constraint or a skill constraint and a knowledge constraint. And I think I like this thinking of Airbnb as an actual business where you hire staff to help you do these things, you manage it. But anyway, we're going into the juicy bits. What are we doing now, Jeff?
So I think I like to do this about once a month, and it'd be great if people could give us a review on Spotify, all that good stuff. Give us a review, hopefully 5 stars, but just give us a comment as well, and drop some questions, because everybody loves Airbnb and all that sort of stuff. But if you're watching later, drop us a like, all that sort of good stuff. But where we're going tonight, though, we are going to talk about things such as the types of Airbnbs and determining FISO, setting it up, how to run and manage. How to actually think about Airbnb like a business, because I think Joe's super juiced and super excited about that. We may even sort of run through, we may chat to an example, but I don't know if we're going to have time. We'll just see. We'll see how we go. Q&A, but also just, I suppose, how it works for servicing as well, because I think James thinks about things a little bit differently in regards to that. People, I think you said that you use it to then gain serviceability rather than the other way around. I've got that wrong. Do you sort of get serviceability and then do Airbnbs? Is that?
So I'm not sure how it works if you own a property exactly. Maybe they take in like 50% of what your income is, or what you would, maybe you can get like a real estate agent quote of like, I think you can rent for this, and they just take in that. But if you run it as a business, they don't take into account like, that whole business is only earning half as much as, like, if they take into what the actual profit is of the business.
Yep. Yeah, that's kind of, so it's sort of, instead of owning it just purely as a property, you're actually owning it as a business, which then is, you need to sort of demonstrate that probably through tax returns, from what I understand. It's not your typical.
Exactly.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's a different way of thinking about it.
I'm excited to talk about all the technology and all the tools that you need to run an Airbnb. Like, there's so much like ways there's like Airbnb data or something like that helps you choose a listing and what kind of price and all of that stuff. I want to understand like the risk of buying an asset or versus the arbitrage of, hey, I can just get a head lease and then sublease this out. Is that legal? How does it work? There's new legislation that have come in. There's a whole raft of things in this Airbnb space, which you know all about, James. So I'm keen to unpack this one. Let's dive into the episode. But before we introduce who James is and what he's all about, we've got to run this little ad thing, and then we'll be back and we'll do that.
Excited.
There's nothing worse than going into a situation unprepared, especially when that situation is purchasing one of the most expensive assets of your life against a trained property expert in the form of a real estate agent. It's a scary thought, but it is a skill that can be taught. Do you want to learn how to become fully prepared when buying a property so you can get out there, buy your dream home or investment property without the fear of actually messing it up? Scott Agate, the founder and expert property negotiator at Hello House, has been helping people buy their properties by stepping in and negotiating with the agents and saving his clients tens of thousands, and in some cases hundreds of thousands of dollars. Scott has now decided to share all that he's learned over the past 28 years in real estate, so you can go out there and do the exact same thing on how to find a property, analyze that property, negotiate on that property, and transact on it to get the best results. He's created the Get Buyer Ready course, which is a step-by-step guide on how you too can become an expert property negotiator. It's the easy way of how you can avoid all of these agent games and get the best purchase price on that dream home or your investment property. The course is in short bites for busy people with no fluff at all. Just all the information you need to get buyer ready and secure that next property with confidence at the best price. Scott has been kind enough to give our community a massive discount with the link below. Sign up today before you even think about putting an offer on that next property, and it will be one of the best decisions you ever make.
Too right.
We're back. So that's it's exciting to get into this session. As I said, we're going to talk about a lot of things Airbnb. But who is James Rubiolo in front of us? I probably won't say your last name too many times because I'll get it wrong more often than not. But you have managed over 70 different properties, from studios in Sydney to a 10-bedroom castle in Stockholm. Gee, that's an interesting. We could just have a whole session on that. But you currently have a business, as you said. You think about things as a business rather than a property, which I think is a bit unique and very innovative. Of 22 properties between Sydney and Stockholm, and maybe not every city in between. You've also mastered automation. So that's why Joe loves automation. He gets into it. And you're able to sustain your business with 10 hours a week. That's not the 4-hour week, but the good old good old Timmy Ferris, who actually probably works probably 400 hours a week, not 4 hours. But
anyway, we'll get him on the show.
I think we could get Tim. I probably know some people who know him. But you also have a bunch of free content on your profit with Bnb. I keep wanting to say Airbnb Insta. So check that one out as well, folks. But what did I miss? What do you do in your spare? You're also a musician. You're a DJ, aren't you, as well, James?
Yeah. So like my whole attitude towards business and making money isn't like business is my passion. And, I want to do something I love. I want to make as much money as I possibly can, but by doing the least amount of work that I possibly can. I don't really enjoy it. So I'm not like, I'm not sugarcoating it. I think a lot of people do sugarcoat it because they're talking about like, in this range of jobs, like it's really good for like what the job is. But if you could choose, you wouldn't do it every day. So if you wouldn't do it for free every day, I think, don't lie to yourself. So that's my ethos, and I'm trying to just free up my time so I can like make music and do things that I like. I make house music, so I'm living in Ibiza for the next 4 months or so. I've been here for 2 months, and helping run like my housemates' parties, secret sessions.
You're not playing Ushuaia next week? You're not playing with
No, yeah, that's my goal, to play at Ushuaia. Yeah.
Mate, I was there in 2016. Fun times. That was pre-COVID, mate. I don't know. These days of COVID, you probably have to spend. Yeah. Anyway, enough on that. So, but Joe, I'll ask the first question. Then you.
Yeah. No, I want to ask the first question. How did you get into this? How did you get into this whole Airbnb thing? How did you kind of fall into it? What did it look like? And tell us. Give us the goods.
Yeah, so in 2016, I had a Swedish girlfriend, and I moved to Stockholm for love after studying there on exchange back in 2012 for like half a year.
Okay.
So I already half wanted to move back, but then the girl kind of like, she didn't push me to move. I just followed her there. Maybe she wasn't that happy that I followed her there, so there was too much pressure on the relationship. It didn't work out, but ended up staying. And when I moved there, I was going to start a bamboo pillow business, like selling stuff in shopping centers over a table. Turned out that it wasn't like how it works in Australia, where you just rent a space and sell stuff over the table. So when I was moving there, I realized if I rent that room there in this trendy part of Stockholm, it's going to pay for the owner's rent twofold if I stay there for a whole month. And I was going to be living with like an older guy. So I was like, well, what if I did that myself? So I rented a 2-bedroom place for, I just jumped in head first. I think I had about 12 grand cash saved. And then I rented a place for $1,000 a week, and I stayed in the really small bedroom, and I rented out the big bedroom. And so that was my first one. Then the owner said, hey, we didn't know you were going to rent out that second bedroom. And I was like, I thought that I was able to have people stay, because I told them I'd have like business people and stuff like that staying. And then I negotiated a deal with them to rent out the whole place, because it used to be on Airbnb, but it was too stressful for them, to rent out the whole place and give them a guaranteed amount of rent and take 25%. So that was my first Airbnb, and 25%. It was of like 15 grand a month through summer. It was like such a great deal. And then I just started giving owners like guarantees and like taking 35% as a management fee over there. I was like the only business there. There wasn't that much innovation in the space. And yeah, so since then I've moved back to Australia. Long story short, and now I focus on rental arbitrage, renting a place, putting furniture in it usually. I've got a couple of furnished ones, and then yeah, so taking on that risk and then keeping the larger gap of the profit rather than managing it for 20% and only making 12% profit. It's more like 40 or 50%.
Okay.
Joe needs some numbers. He needs a visual, do you, Joe, to picture how it all works. The numbers.
No. So what you're saying is in Stockholm, you're getting 20% cut from, or 35% cut from, you're just managing there. So if they won, you won. If they lost, you lost. That's great, right? You'd just be taking that percentage cut. But now what you're talking about with this arbitrage thing, is you go to someone and they're saying, hey, I want to rent my place for $500 a week. And you're saying, hey, I'll give you $500 a week, but you just have to allow me to run Airbnb through it. And then I'll make whatever I make, and you make your $500.
And if it's a really good place, then I'll even pay like $600 for it.
Right.
It's trying to rent for $500. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this is where it all starts. This is where it starts to get really, really interesting. So how does it how does all this work? Like, how should I think about Airbnb myself?
So there'd be different types of people watching. There'd be people that already own a property and they're like, can I make money from doing Airbnb?
Mm-hmm.
There'd be people that would be thinking about doing the same thing as me. Is there anyone else? Maybe people just wanting to do it as a side hustle and getting a couple of places. So the way that you should think about it is, well, for the people that have their own place, is it going to be worth your time to do? Is the place feasible? And for the people that are looking to get started, yeah, you can make as much money as you're willing to put into it by just learning how to find the right properties that are going to work on Airbnb.
Okay.
So what I think Joe's may be asking, you correct me wrong, is take us through the framework. Take us back to step one. So how do you determine a feasibility on an Airbnb property? I'm assuming you're not going to buy it first. You look at it.
Okay, so yeah, you mentioned AirDNA at the start, Joe. So that's a website where you can type in an address of any property and it'll give you a rough guide of what the occupancy rate will be, like if it's only going to rent out for 60% of the year, and what will the average daily rate be? So is it going to rent out for 150 a night or 300 a night?
Wow.
And then you go to Airbnb and then you look at comparable properties and see what they are currently earning in the next month, the month after that, and maybe the summer as well. And you can get a feel for what that place would earn. And you need to look at what is not just the place itself. What about the furniture, the reviews? How is the host managing the place? So there's like a lot of factors that go into it. A lot of people will have, for example, there's a building that I have an Airbnb in. I've got quite kind of trendy furniture, like a wooden table with recycled wood, stuff like that. But then the one downstairs with an even better apartment, better renovation, but more boring furniture is earning 40% less than my one is, as a combination of a lower occupancy rate and lower prices. So the same property can earn vastly different amounts just on furniture alone.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So what kind of furniture do we want to be putting in our Airbnb to maximize it?
So you usually want to identify the area. So if it's like a hipster area, you might have a Chesterfield couch and a wooden table, maybe a Smeg fridge, something like that, to make it really pop in the photos.
Yeah.
Or if it's a beachside location, you might have some beachside like actual paintings, like paintings that people have actually painted. You get them from a secondhand shop. You might have some like vine plants. You know, think about like a trendy cafe that serves fancy coffees in Byron Bay. So you want to tie it in with the location, because people are trying to book like an experience, not just a place to sleep. Yeah.
Someone said here, people will pay a huge premium for something different and quirky.
Yeah.
Okay. Easy peasy.
So I'm just thinking, like, if I'm sort of the starter and Airbnb investor, you probably need to pick out like there's going to be sort of limited locations where Airbnb will probably work. Is that sort of your experience, or your kind of what you've found?
So a rule of thumb actually would be, when you go on Airbnb, like if you're thinking about doing it nearby or on the other side of the world, both are as possible as each other, by the way. You just have to run it differently. If there's if there's a selection of Airbnbs in that area, it probably means that you can make a profit on an Airbnb. So you just got to figure out what's the play that each of those owners are doing. So it might be in like an area where there's mining or something, and it's not about the furniture at all. It's just about short-term accommodation or mid-term accommodation, you know. Or it could be a tiny house, you know, a basic tiny house, and then it's about the nature. So so it's not so don't think about like what type of property is going to work. Like, is it 1 bedrooms? Is it 3 bedrooms, etc. Think about just what numbers. So what properties stack up with the numbers. So, for example, last summer in Ibiza, I was here for 2 months, and I was trying to find accommodation. I literally couldn't find it, so I had to leave. And I was looking at different places. There was even like caravans that don't work anymore for $2,000 a week. So you could literally buy a caravan for $2,000 and then rent it out for $8,000 a month for like 3 months in a row. So the type of property doesn't really matter if we're talking about the profit.
Yeah. So how do you
to follow? Yeah.
How do you kind of work that? How do you kind of work that out? Like, how do you figure that stuff out?
So you go on Airbnb and look at what is succeeding, and then you reverse engineer it from there. So you might.
So what does succeeding look like? What does succeeding look like on Airbnb? Because when I look at Airbnb, I just see this is 150, this is 200. Like, I don't know.
So you enter, for example, a stay for a week. Like, let's say we look at July next month for Melbourne, and we enter a stay for a week, and we look at how much this place is trying to charge. For example, $1,700 a week, and then we look at how many dates on the calendar are actually blocked, which gives credence to maybe they're actually getting the prices that they're asking. And then we look at domain, and we look at how much could we rent a place for that. Oh, we can rent one for $700, maybe even already furnished, or maybe $650 and it's not furnished, and we're going to have to put furniture in ourselves. And we look at, okay, so that place that was renting for $1,700, what kind of furniture do they have in there? Can I get a place just like that, even maybe in the same building? Can I get even better furniture, or something even better about the listing? And then that's pretty much feasibility. You want to do that multiple times to like test that it's not just maybe someone is staying there and renting it out when they're going away, and that's why the dates are locked. So you want to see other places in that area getting booked at these higher prices as well.
Are there any kind of like rules of thumb for, like, so I live in Cronulla, right, which is like a beachside area. So when you think of beachside area, do you think of like, you know, apartment or house, or like, how do you kind of frame, hey, I'm in Geelong, or I'm in the middle of Northern Territory, or I'm in Townsville, whatever. Like,
maybe in Port Hedland, Joe. Throw a mining town in there. Let's say mining town, because I reckon that'd be interesting.
Do you think about like a framework for maybe not even framework's not the right word, but do you say, okay, cool, yep, you're going beach theme. Cool, you're in Newtown in New South Wales. You're going hipster, trendy, lush furniture, all from the charity
420
shop.
leaf on the wall. That's where you're going, Joe.
420 leaf.
Definitely.
Yeah, okay. So you just think of the demographic that lives there, or what people's perceived notion of that area is, and then just cater to that?
Yeah. So you also, as I was saying, like you might want to do something different to what everyone else is doing. So you might look at
Yeah.
Cronulla, and then it might just all be boring furniture places, but you could make a
Yeah.
really quirky place, and then people will literally book specifically Cronulla, because they really like that place, and it's by the beach, and it's cheaper than other beach places. And then you can get like a unique kind of listing, because when someone looks at a map, it shows they log into Airbnb, they're going to book a stay, and they enter their suburb. Sometimes it shows other properties as well from around the area, so you can actually drag people away from where they were thinking they were going to go just by
Nice
having a
photo.
great place. Yeah.
Yeah. I really like the way you're thinking about it. You're actually, because I tend to agree when I'm going on not tend to agree, I do agree. When I'm going on holiday, if I'm a sort of more sort of if I'm willing to spend more, or if I want to have a great experience when I go on holiday, I'm willing to spend that little bit extra for that place that really pops. So you say if I'm going to go to Cronulla, or if I'm going to work, my company might be paying it. So I'm really liking that you're actually you're looking at what's there, and you're looking to not outdo, but you're looking to differentiate yourself from the competition. So it's really about marketing to understand. You're understanding what that area. So that's what I'm sort of understanding from what you're saying.
Yeah, like for you, it's only an extra $100 a night. But then for me, over so many properties, it could be like 20 grand a month difference just on having like nice furniture.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you get massive use. Sure, it's going to wear and tear and wear out, but you're totally unique, and you're snagging every person that comes through it. What are some
Yeah,
of
like
the yeah,
it
go
might
on,
not even
sorry.
cost more to have the quirky furniture either. It might cost less
Mm.
because it's secondhand as the unique furniture pieces.
Yeah, very, very good point. What are some of the more like overlooked things that people, just starting out their Airbnb experience, what is like, oh, you know what, no, I don't need that. Like, what are some of the overlooked factors that reduce profitability, that mess people up?
So people will often just set a flat price, let's say $200 a night, and then they will get it as soon as they've listed up, they'll get it fully booked for the next 6 months. So they're like, wow, like I'm such a good Airbnb host. I'm killing it. Like really, it's fully booked. Can't do any better. But if that happens, they've actually left like thousands of dollars on the table, because in peak season, maybe they could have been charging $500-600 a night. And they maybe they didn't also have a strategy. Now they've got all these 1 and 2 night gaps in their calendar that they could have kind of optimized to get a fully booked calendar. So a lot of people don't understand how important the daily rate is and the occupancy rate. So you got to optimize both of those based on supply and demand, which you can literally, by the way, the tool that I use for that is Price Labs. It's like $10 a month, and it does a lot of that for you. Another thing is like minimum stay. Minimum stay. So if there's a 3 night gap in the calendar, you don't want to have for night 1, you don't want to just have a minimum stay of 1 night or 2 nights. You want to try and get the full 3 nights booked, because if you only get a 2 night stay, then the other one's probably going to sit empty. So you give a discount for that night 1 to reward someone booking that full amount. You know what I mean? So you think of it as like you're like a supermarket selling discounted items. Like you've got an expiring night that you want to sell discounted.
Yeah,
just squeeze every last dollar out. Yeah.
Like
what
if.com, lastminute.com, or whatever.
Pretty much your own version of that.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is an interesting point. Someone made 1 and 2 night stays don't work when cleaners and linen are taken into account. So
what are your thoughts on that? Do they work though? Like, can you make them work?
Yeah, you can. Some people are willing to pay for it because the cleaning fee is added on top of the booking on Airbnb, and on the other platforms, you can make sure that it is added on. Maybe on Booking.com, the default is no, but you can add it on the top. And then some areas you may need to discount it to account for that cleaning fee, but you just discount it to the amount that you're comfortable with earning. So you don't just drop it to $50 a night to account for the cleaning and linen fee, you drop it to what you're comfortable with earning and what you think it can get booked at.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you might be in one of these places where it is just, one night. Like if you're in fly out work, I don't know what else. Actually, is there a demographic that is just kind of one night? Are you trying to, with the
Not
types
that
of
I know of.
demographics, are there specific that you're trying to target? Like what's the best demographic to hit to get the
think
best?
of one, but
Yeah.
might not be. Keep it PG.
Usually, my calendar is, the further you book in the future, the higher the minimum stay is. So it might be 5 nights if you're trying to book for December now. And then if it's 2 weeks away, it might be 3 nights. And then if it's in the next week, it might be 2 nights, because you want to open up the possibilities to book. Because you got to think about also showing up in search results to even get booked. So the lower the minimum stay is, the more the more eyeballs you get on the listing.
Yeah.
How does one go about learning all of this? Because it just feels like there's a lot of very tacit sort of knowledge you have and you picked up. Like, how did you learn about all this?
So there's, I mean, there's two ways. I've been doing it since 2016, which I think is 6 or 7 years. So I learned a lot from YouTube and just sort of trial and error. Like when I come across this, and you go in the Airbnb forum and figure out how to go about it. So it's a pretty massive learning curve. I just wanted to touch on it to make sure that if you have just one property and you want to do this whole learning curve, I'd probably say it's not worth doing, which we can talk about later. And we'll talk about what to look for when you get a management company, etc.
Yeah.
So yeah, I teach people. I have like a mentorship program where we can guide you through and get all those questions sort of answered. Probably if I had a mentor, I would have gotten to the result I was looking for like in 20% of the time, because there's a lot of energy spent when you don't know what to do next or you don't have clarity. But if you have someone to just ask and get the spectrum of answers that you need instantly, then you just keep pushing forward and just growing your business. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly like my quote, right? Like you'll hit a constraint and then you're just not going to get any further unless you have the key to the next lock to get out there. But then I guess what you're saying is you can make a mistake and you won't even know it's costing you. So you could just be losing money every single day, every single week that you list it, but you should have optimized $50 out of it. I want to go back.
Sorry, I just want to say also, just so it's not like I'm trying to say it like it's me or learn yourself, which is the worst option. You could, if you have a friend that is has some Airbnb experience, they could also teach you. But there's also gaps in a lot of people's knowledge. Like I find a lot of people, even though they've been doing Airbnb for a long time, they think that 100% booked in advance is great, but there's so many moving parts and a lot of people have blind spots. So I would talk to like multiple people. If you can get like friends to be your mentor, I would get different perspectives and to formulate your own thing if you're trying to do it for free. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, learn from the people that are doing it. So I'm interested to go back, just cycle all the way back to what we were talking about at the beginning. So there's kind of three ways to do this. You've got your own house and you rent out a room. That's great. That's a bit of fun. You make a couple of bucks. The two more interesting ones are you specifically buy an investment property and lease that out on Airbnb. And then the third that I'm most interested in is I don't have any money. Well, I'm 25 and I want to go and approach a property investor, someone that's renting out their house for $500. I want to get the head lease and I want to sublet it on Airbnb. So what's the best bang for your buck and return? How do you think about those options?
So when you buy a place specifically for Airbnb, you get the benefit of the higher cash flow, but you also get the capital growth, which a lot of Airbnb spruikers say if you've got 100K to buy a place, then you should go and get 5 rental arbitrage places, which is where you rent someone else's place to sublet on Airbnb, which will get you a lot more cash flow. But what if the market moves? Like, what if it doubles in the next 10 years? Then you got to do the maths on which one is better. So, because there's an opportunity cost if you do each one. If you buy a place, then all your money's tied up in that, and then you can't get 4 others on rental arbitrage at, say 20 grand each, including furnishing it and so on. Or if you don't buy that place and you just get rental arbitrage ones, then maybe you've got 100K cash flow per year from 5 places, but you didn't get a property that is worth them 1.2 million and maybe going to grow 5 or 10%, which is 50 to 100K a year or so. Anyway, but then if you get the rental arbitrage places, you've now got an income that can maybe help you buy other places in the future.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a great way to save up for a deposit. Like doing it the rental arbitrage way is I only have 20 grand. So I'm going to buy some. So what's 20 grand going to do? Is going to buy furniture, and what else do I need?
So let's say for a place that's $500 a week, for example, if anyone's going to do it higher, just double these numbers. So the 1 month security deposit or a bond is 4K. Say 2 weeks rent in advance.
Yep.
No, it's 2K, isn't it? 2K. So 3K all up just to get the keys. Yep. And then at least 10K to furnish the place, or 15K if you want to do a cracker job. So it's
all in the furniture.
13 to 18K to get one place. And the multiple that I work off is getting above 2x the rent. So I'd expect to make 25 grand a year if I rent a place for $500 a week.
Yeah. Okay. So how do we actually get, okay, so let's just say we're going down the sublet route, right? How do we do it? Like, how do we found an area. So again, Cronulla, you've seen a rental. You're like, I know what this market needs. It needs a trendy cafe looking place. And look, there's a property right here that's for rent, $500. I'm going to go and approach this person and say, you know what you should do? You should rent it to me. I'll give you $600. I don't know. Tell me, what's it look like?
Yeah. So firstly, you judge how desperate are they to rent it out. Are you among like 20 others at the inspection? If so, you're probably going to have to pay more for that place to get the keys.
Yeah, because that's my next. That's actually my next was going to be my next point. Was we're currently in a rental crisis, and they're not struggling to get tenants. Like people are paying, above market rent. So it must be harder to do this stuff during this type of period. But
it felt like that in summer, but there is a lot of places where there's no one rocking up, and then you can get the place for less than what they're asking for as well. So you just have to feel that out. So that's just on what price to offer. And then you say, hey, my name's James. I do Airbnb rental arbitrage. Here's my business website. That helps you. If you've got a business website, that helps you, gain a bit of trust. Show the other properties that you're going for. And you just explain to them, like, I'm not trying to cut you out of the deal and deal with the owner. Because the real estate agent is the gatekeeper. And you say, look, you're still going to be involved. I'm just going to be like a normal tenant. If there's repairs, we'll come to you. Or you could even say, for any repair under $200, we'll just sort it out. So it's going to be less work for you. And we want to do a 2-year lease. If you're going to furnish it yourself, make sure you get at least 2 years. Or I've never done more than 2 years, but so 2 years would be the one you want to go for. Because I have had friends that have done it for 1 year, and then the owner decides to sell it or have the family move in, and he spent 30K on furniture on a 3-bedder. So you have to get that 2-year lease. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you got the logistics of getting rid of it all. That'd be a bloody
just wanted to pick out something that, regardless of whether you're doing Airbnb, regardless of whether you're buying a property for buy and hold, whatever it is, as much as you can, the person who is the gatekeeper, whether that be the property manager in this situation or the selling agent, build that, as much as you can. Make sure you're getting on the same team as that. Sort of, you're working together to solve the problem. Look, hey, I want to make this easy for you. I'm going to be a great tenant, we're gonna sort of repair things for under $200. So you're not going to have to think about that clogged toilet, or I mean, maybe clogged toilet costs more than $200, but you get my point. Like, you're going to make it make a really good tenant, a really good sort of and make it simple, nice.
Yeah, the highest conversion activity to getting places is just going up to inspections and going to. You could even go to every single one until they give you one. Maybe then they have to go to every inspection, follow them around.
Yeah. Well, I guess you can just have conversations with property managers to see who's open to it, and then start looking at their listings, because you're going to find people that just don't want to deal with it, and they're like, I'm not going to give you a property ever. Okay, great. I don't need to deal with your listings then.
So once you find, just before we move on, once you find an agent that is happy to work with you and they see your value, then you can just get heaps more through that agent. Like one of my students, he got 4 through the same agent, and that was in the space of 3 months. So 4 places is like 80K profit a year. So he like replaced his regular income just with that through one agent. So wasn't like a massive hustle to find 4 places.
So it's that what? So we can just go ahead. So we've now got our first one. So I guess, how do you convince, just before we get it, how do you convince the tenant, I mean the owner, to actually do it for you? Because I don't know, I think about someone doing that and I'm just like, so you're going to have 100. So right now I get a 12-month lease. I get it we're in a rental crisis right now. It's $500, but I'm going to stretch it to $550. And then next year I'm going to renew it and I'm going to get it for $650. I'm also only going to have one tenant walking through my door, rather than just a stream of 1,000 feet, trampling all over the floor and, messing the place up. Like as a landlord, I'm like, oh, I don't really want to get involved with that. Like, how do you convince them? How do you get them around it?
It's a good question.
So for an Airbnb to work, it needs to basically be in pristine, sellable condition all the time. So it gets cleaned like once or twice a week. If there's any small thing that needs to be repaired, that's like important to get a 5-star review, so you can keep operating profitably. It's in your best interest to look after the place and put systems in place to make sure it doesn't get damaged. Because I would be more worried about a place than the owner, because if something happens to it, then I've got to pay the rent. And or if something happens to it and it's going to take a few months to repair it, but we can still rent it out, then I'm going to be earning less rent because there's something wrong with it, or the listing is going to be ruined. So it's in both of your best interests to have a place that's pristine and looked after and behaving guests, and there's things that you can put in place to make sure that you get respectable guests.
What's that? Might as well ask this now. The sort of typical part of the objection is, I'm going to get people who are going to party and wreck the joint and do all that sort of stuff. Which, hey, I've been away on boys' weekends. We party sometimes, but how do you sort of, because I put my details in. I'm like, yeah, of course we're not going to have a party. Like, how do you then sort of
every single Bucks party that I've been to, we are having a church gathering, or we're having something.
Well, you just don't say anything. Just say, no, I'm not going to have any of these situations. So do you then sort of have eyes on the street like neighbors, or like how do you do that? What's it?
So firstly, if I'm going to manage a place, and then it's up to the owner where they want to list the place. You can list it on only Airbnb and only to people with positive reviews in the past, so you know that everyone has a track record. That's not the most profitable way to do it, because then it's not showing up to all the other platforms, and it's not showing up to the guests that have just joined Airbnb, because Airbnb is constantly growing, et cetera, et cetera. So it's kind of like, you can choose for optimal safety, but then you're leaving money on the table, or you can open up to everyone and earn more money, but then there's slightly more risk of parties, because if you don't know about a review from someone in the past. So then after that, it's up to, what does your place look like? Because if you've got a nice trendy place and it's, say, only if it's just a 1-bedroom, it's going to attract a certain type of guest, like a couple or something that are here for a holiday, and your calendar is
Yeah.
probably going to fill up with people looking for that thing.
Yeah.
If you,
You're not going to have 10 people like on a bucks, or like, whereas if you have a 10 5 or 6 bedroom place, then that's sort of potentially right for people who may go and party.
yeah,
there's
so
someone
then
here.
what you
He's like,
do,
I got 30 grand with which are furnished, but it sleeps 11. I charge $1,200 a night. Like that's probably the party house, right?
yeah, like yeah, if I was or if me and Jeff were going to go on a party holiday, yeah, we'd probably look for that place. But then it's about what do you put in your house rules. So you want to basically scare off people like Jeff. I probably wouldn't book through
Doesn't
Airbnb to
scare me.
party because I don't want to get kicked off or something because I host with them. But what was I saying? Yeah, so house rules. So you want to have a you want to say that we're going to charge you and evict you if you do party. You want to get something called a minutes device, MINUT. Just Google that. It's like a small fee per month, and they measure decibels. So you get an alert after a certain decibel threshold, and you can put one in each room, and then you have it on an app on your phone, and then you get an alert once that decibel has been breached for your desired minutes. So if you want to know once 70 decibels is breached for 15 minutes, you can get an alert, and you can even pay extra for them to automatically send a text message to the guest and a message through Airbnb. Hey, like we noticed you've been noisy.
This is the craziest thing, and this is the funny thing. You don't even think about that, but you can actually put a device in the house that lets people know that they're being too loud. Like it beeps and does all that crazy stuff, alerts you as the guest, and then alerts them for being too loud. So that's a pretty good safeguard.
It also does how many Bluetooth devices are nearby that thing, like within a few meters. So if there's a place for 5 bedrooms, then you'd expect 10 people to be staying. So if there's say 15 or 20 Bluetooth devices nearby and the noise level is high, then you got a fair bit of evidence that there's a party going on. And there's another thing, it measures humidity as well. So
why do you need to
all
measure
these
humidity?
things,
Like,
well, a party is
Titanic.
when a party is getting a bit heated, the humidity is higher, I suppose.
Okay.
So basically, this all gives you evidence to say to Airbnb, yeah, look, they're definitely having a party. This is our proof. We need to enforce this $500 or $1,000, $1,500 penalty, and we need to evict these guests. So you explain that in your house rules. You send the house rules after they book as well, so they have the chance to. Probably most people don't read the house rules before they book, so you send it again in a message after they book, and then they have the chance to cancel it in the grace period and book someone else's place that isn't doing this sort of thing.
Have you been saved by some of these? Like, have you implemented and had to whack someone with one of these fines?
I have smaller places, but I don't have real places that are great for parties. But my friend has succeeded with this, yeah, because he had like a penthouse sort of place that is perfect for parties. There was another thing I wanted to say. You can also say like the property is next to a really picky neighbor, and we've had them call the police before as soon as there's a party issue. So please just don't book the place because it's not worth us going through that again. So yeah, my house rules are like really naggy and strict about that. So if you're a normal guest, it doesn't affect you. So it's not a big deal to be naggy in your house rules. And then that scares off anyone because why would you book a place like mine when it says all that when you could just book someone else's place that doesn't have any of this, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
So why have you decided to go smaller units and like smaller places rather than the larger ones yourself?
So where I do it, actually I have had experience with larger places. I did have a 5 bedder place. I just found that the larger the place, it kind of gets more niche on who you're looking for.
Right.
So there's more.
A couple's not going to go to a
80%.
5-bed place. Like, there's no need.
Yeah, that's why all hotels have 1 bedroom or studio rooms, because most people are just 2 people traveling.
Yeah.
So typically that's what works, but there is pockets where you can earn a lot of money from bigger places, like that guy said. I've got a 1,200 a night place for 5 beds. You know, it's
Probably like a Byron
pretty
Bay
awesome.
would work quite well for that. Byron Bay, maybe.
Yeah, I bet.
But
Yeah. And then yeah, it's just up to the multiple. Typically, the larger a place is, the multiple is smaller. So if it's a place as a studio, you're probably going to get over 2x. You rent it for 500, rent it out for 1,200 a week. But if it's $1,000 or $1,500, maybe you won't double your money. Maybe you'll only make a 50 or 70% extra.
okay.
But it's on a larger number, right? So it's still pretty
Well,
juicy.
Kind of
exactly.
like when people say that they got 100% capital growth on 200K, but you made 200K, whereas But no, I think it sounds more scalable though, because you can almost rinse and repeat. Whereas on those bigger properties, I mean, I don't know. I suppose you could, but you'd have to. Yeah, I think it's you find the property managers, so different challenges.
Yeah. Okay. So how do I? Is it that easy? Like, is it that easy to just find a place? Hey, Mr. Agent, look, like we're gonna rent it out. I'll pay you $600 and it'll stay there for 2 years. I'll fit it out, and then the next week you just got Airbnbs coming on through.
So I can break down the timeline, but just in terms of, is it that easy? So it's not easy. It's not like you can just rock up and get your first one. It's like there is difficulty to it. You might have to go to 50 inspections before you get one, but you can't let that discredit you, because 50 inspections, each one takes half an hour. It's like 25 to 30 hours work for you to then earn 25K a year at least, for as long as you've got the place. Like, it's a really good investment. And also, as I mentioned, once you've got your foot in the door with one agent, you can then get more. What was the other question? So typically you'll try and start the lease, say, a week or 10 days away from whenever you sign it and pay it. And then you order stuff from like catch.com.au, mydeal.com.au, flat pack furniture, etc. You rent a van on, whatever your local car sharing app is. Go pick up a nice Chesterfield couch or a caramel brown couch, like modern couch, whatever you're trying to do in that place. See if you can find a Smeg fridge or something, or stainless steel fridge. Just start getting stuff ready. So then when you get those keys, all your deliveries have already arrived or about to arrive. And then you just throw people in there to help you on Airtasker. Don't try and do everything yourself to save money, because every day that you get it done sooner is a day closer that you're earning $200 a night. So you may as well just pay people to help you out. That's the lesson that I've learned. I used to just do everything myself. So you can, typically for me, I mean, when I was doing almost everything myself, it would take me about 10 days to furnish a place. So you could cut that down to cut that down to like 5 days if you get 2 people to help you and get that lead time.
It takes so long. Jesus. It's just like moving house, moving in, moving out. But
it is, yeah.
Cardboard, right?
Yeah, but there's also companies you can pay to do it for you. There's just a premium. So if you're a bit cashed up, then it's not a big deal to, like, let's say you buy a place and you're older, just pay a company to do it for you. And
money solves most problems, as they say. So, but yeah, you can either do it cheap and slower sometimes, or quick and a bit more expensive. One thing I wanted to ask about this, because it keeps coming up. People keep asking about council approval. If you're subletting, do you need the council approve?
You don't need them to approve that you're doing that or anything like that. In New South Wales or Sydney, there's a platform where you just register. Yeah, this is the property. Upload the proof that you've got the permission from the owner. By the way, we didn't speak about it before. You get a lease addendum, like I'm allowed to do Airbnb and a couple of other points.
Ah.
And
What are the other
and
points? What do
council
you need
approval. So yeah,
addendum?
like I'm gonna get at least 2 sets of keys or 3 sets of keys.
Yeah.
I'm responsible for anyone that's in the place, and if they
Right.
damage it,
My responsibility.
It's basically
can't remember the
giving
other
the sounds
stuff.
like giving the landlord some sort of comfort and protection that you are actually serious about what you're sort of doing. You're not just
Yeah,
a ride by the night sort of cowboy who's going to lend it to at least at anybody. You're actually serious about
yeah,
your
exactly,
responsibility. The other thing I
exactly.
wanted to ask, what about strata? Like, how do you investigate whether you obviously would do that due diligence up front, or like how do you understand that?
Yeah, so for apartments, you want to make sure the place doesn't have a bylaw preventing Airbnb or short-term rentals. Definitely don't bother if it does have that.
How do you find that out? You got to go through the real estate and
You'd have to get the real estate agent to request it from the owner, or you can also
Just call a
be a bit
strata
cheeky
company,
and
wouldn't
look
you?
at. Uh,
Not really.
I'm
you
not
need
sure.
permission.
I guess you could pay for it off the strata, or you can also like look at places for sale in the same building and ask them for the strata thing.
That's true. That's a very good one. It's a good way to do it.
There was something I wanted to cover on.
the rules around it. There is this big bad boy here. I think it's worthwhile definitely
Yeah,
covering off the legislation side of things. So can you talk to, so it says here, there's a comment that's come in New South Wales, there are restrictions of 180 nights in Greater Sydney area. So can you tell us what that actually means and how we
yeah.
should
So
think about this as Airbnb investors?
yeah, perfect. So basically, it used to be you can rent out your place for 365 nights a year,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all good. Now it is you can rent it out for 180 nights a year, for stays of less than 21 nights. If there is a stay of 21 nights or over, it doesn't count towards your 180-day timer.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So
Okay.
you basically just have to book the guests on a longer term stay, from the sounds of
You'd
it.
be upset with a 20-day, wouldn't you?
Yeah, yeah. So you can just set a discount on Airbnb for 21 night stays, so you try and get that. So now let's talk about how to think about that.
Mm.
So let's say 2019, where it was 365. I mean, you came in later, but let's talk about a normal market pre-COVID. Um, it was, say, 80% occupancy. So that means already 20% of the year, 73 nights of the year already that were empty.
Mm-hmm.
And you already were getting about 25% of your bookings at 21 nights, or I was, because I like longer stays because the maths just add up. If you give someone a discount for 21 nights and you don't have to fit, then you don't have empty nights and stuff like that. It's a good thing, and it's less work and so on.
So 20%, did you say 20% of your nights would be over 21 nights?
25%.
25%.
Roughly.
Yeah.
20%
So
vacancy.
already what's 20? So we got 73 nights, 20% empty
Mm-hmm.
already. And then if we got 25% over 21 nights, that's 91 nights. So 91 plus, what was it? 75?
That's about
Sure.
106. Oh,
166 nights already were kind of
accounted for.
accounted for. So it's not that big of a change, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
The other thing is, it was a complete free for all before. There was people renting out without permission, and now there's a hurdle in place, so there's less Airbnbs. So there's less supply, but the demand hasn't changed, so the prices are higher.
Mm.
So don't get scared off by council approval. Now, I can't speak to all the states, but typically the higher the hurdle, the higher the reward is on the other side. So just spend the time to figure out what's going on. Don't just think, it's too complicated. Like, don't you need council approval? Yeah, maybe you do need council approval, but just figure out how to go and get it. And then most people are going to be too scared to like, or too lazy to even go through that. So it's just like everything that there's going to be
Like
less
Joe
evidence
says, the
on the other
barrier,
side.
the higher the barrier, potentially the higher reward, as you're saying. Just
Yeah.
and it's kind of like people sort of, the problem people find is they'll dabble in the Airbnb pond and it won't work, and they'll say, no, Airbnb doesn't work. It's the same thing with property investing. Some people will go and buy a house and land package and they'll just go and buy the first object they see, and they'll say, actually, property investing doesn't work. I'm going to not do that now, when they actually just didn't sort of take the time to sort of educate and lots of stuff.
So what's
That's
the kind
true.
of general thing that's happening with this whole legislation side of things of Airbnb? Like, it seems like, in my limited knowledge of Airbnb, that the government is trying to stricken it up a little bit. So how do you think about that? And does each state have to have a different kind of curtail around it? Because I guess right now there's no, for New South Wales, for that 160-day thing, it's 160 days now. You're losing 6 days.
Yeah, like 15 days or so. So what was the question again?
Well, like, how do
How do
you?
we
Yeah, I guess
think
how do you
about it?
think about? Yeah, I guess it's not really a bother for you. It's by the sounds of things. I guess that's how you think about it.
The cost of doing business,
Mm,
Joe. I mean,
Yeah.
how do you think about? How
yeah.
did you think about when Queensland was going to bring in the land tax? How did you feel about that? Did you just say, "Oh, look, I'm not going to do investing in Queensland now"? I mean, some
I
people
heard
probably
people
did.
saying that.
Yeah, yeah.
Heard people saying
I,
it.
I, I like when people are doing that, because I was like, I sense of opportunity. I mean, not to be greedy, but just to sort of say, hey, look, people think that's too hard. Just figure out a way. But yeah, is that how you
Now,
think about it, James?
one thing to note here
Yeah.
is, why sign a 2-year lease and spend 15K on furniture on a site that needs council approval? You may not get council approval. Can you just clear that one up?
Okay, so this must be for another state, because I don't need to get council approval for mine in order to host, because you
Yeah.
just register it and then you get your ID and you attach to the listing, and that's the end of it. So I mean, I can't really talk about it because I don't know how it works in other states.
No, cool. I
But
think
if you
that was
need
just
to,
the answer. I think it was just, you actually register for it. You don't need the council to approve it, because that would just feel.
yeah,
I don't think any council would say you need full council permission, because it would take months for them to process all of the forms. So I think
I
they
mean,
would do it in a
maybe
different
they
way.
will. I don't know, but
Maybe, no idea.
post to the person that asked that, just find out everything that's going on with the council approval process, and how does it
Yeah.
all work? Can you do it
Yeah.
before? Can you register something before even signing the lease?
Yeah,
How long does it take? How much does it cost?
understand what's required, because then you can sort of say, well, hey, look, there's always, as I said, going back to my quote, there's no risk. There's no risk-free investing. It's about managing that risk, because otherwise, like you
Yeah.
might not get a 100% guarantee.
So call up the council, see if you can get an understanding. Jump in some Airbnb Facebook groups, see how other people got it happening.
Yeah.
It's pretty much all I can think of. Or Google. There's sometimes articles written on it explaining it. Read multiple articles, because there might be differing perspectives. And then maybe it is impossible in some areas now. I'm not sure. But also maybe it is possible, and then there's big profits on the other side, which you can take
Australia's a big
advantage.
place too, but yeah, I agree. Like
Yeah,
find
That's the other thing. Do it somewhere where you can do it. You
Yeah.
could even do it in Sweden or America or something. It's going to be slightly more difficult to like get a company set up, but it's not like a crazy impossible thing. You can host overseas as well.
Well, I mean, you're living proof. You're a visa right now, and you're doing these
Yeah,
Airbnbs in Australia.
there's about 18 back home, and then there's 2 in Stockholm that I haven't seen since like I left in 2018. So
Okay.
you can definitely.
So I'm a little entrepreneur. I'm 22. I've got 20 grand, 50 grand of cash, and I'm gonna go now get one Airbnb. Boom, like your kind of person that was there before. I'm gonna get another one. I'm gonna get another one, and then all of a sudden I have a boatload of admin I need to clean. I need to inspect. I need to run bookings. I need to remove people. I need to offer fees and offer fines. I want to talk about the business of running Airbnb. But before we do that, we have to jump to this ad. But that's what I want to talk to next. It just felt a bit spammy, didn't it? But I'm excited to unpack the business there.
It was very, very
Tucker.
very smooth.
Smooth as silk.
The amazing thing with commercial property investing is that in most cases it's cash flow positive from day one, which means that you can drive those profits towards paying down the debt. There are instances with commercial property investing where you can actually have the property pay itself off over 10 years, which is absolutely crazy. With commercial property, you get massive net yields, so you can expect anywhere between 6 to 10%. And as we've seen in the current boom, these properties not only provide large cash flow, they do certainly grow wildly in value too. Now, with big rewards comes some risk, and this is why you should de-risk your investment as much as possible. And the way you do that is with expert due diligence. And this is why we highly recommend people hire professionals to help you along in your investing journey. Steve Polisi of Polisi Property is one such expert. Being a chartered mechanical and structural engineer in a past life, Steve draws on his analytical and mathematical skills to do that expert due diligence for you. With 6 years experience in the space, Steve has over 1,200 property transactions under his belt. He's the guy you want in your corner, crunching the numbers and finding the best properties in the best locations, along with ensuring that you avoid the mistakes. Steve has actually even written the book on commercial property investing in Australia, and not only is it a bestseller, I believe it to be the most comprehensive in commercial property investing on the market today. He's been generous enough to give us a massive discount for our audience of 50%. So use the code AUS Prop, click the link below, get a copy today, and start learning and getting on your commercial property investing journey.
Oh, I'm good.
What a voice.
Okay. The business of Airbnb. I've got 5 Airbnbs now. I'm pulling my hair out. It's running low.
Shout out to Polisi. Congrats on your first little one. Well done, man.
Oh yeah, congrats, mate. Congrats. I'm sure he's watching right now. He's
Probably
probably
is. He's not sleeping, so yeah. No, the business of Airbnb. Tell us all about it.
Yep.
How do you manage it?
Yeah, so when when I first started, I think I had like 5 or 7, and then I had to like send messages when I was on a date in Sweden or something at 10:30, or I'd have to like jump on a call because the guest was locked out or whatever. So the first step is hiring a virtual assistant from the Philippines on Upwork.com. There's an art to finding a good one. It takes a while to teach, but you want to get a good VA.
What's the art? What's the secret to getting a good Airbnb helper?
You got to check that they got attention to detail. So hide words in your long job application if they don't, and tell them start your application with that word. If they don't, start it with that word, you know that they didn't read it, so don't even read. Just decline their application.
I actually do that. I do that. Like I get little ad jobs, and I say, "What if there's a little picture, what color's the picture, or what color's my logo?" And then it's like, okay, cool. So we get someone at Upwork. What do they do? What's their job role?
So they would basically, every time you do something in any business, you should try to think, should I be doing this, or can I get someone else to do it? If someone else can do it, download an app on your computer called Loom, and then record a quick video explaining to them how to do it, and then just store all your Looms somewhere so that they can follow it when they need to do something. So yeah, they'll just do everything that you're doing. They'll send messages. They'll prepare. You can even get them to prepare like message templates based on your old messages. They'll book it, make sure the cleaner is in, create a WhatsApp group with the cleaning company that you use, your VA and you, and get them talking to each other. Hey, just confirm these are the 2 cleans that you got today. Please send me a video once that's done. Okay, great. I noticed that you only put 2 towels in the bed. Like, tell the VA what they need, the cleaning company needs to do. you have a cleaning checklist. If you want to be a real pain for the cleaners, you can say, send me a video of you showing every single thing on the checklist that it's done, and don't leave the property until the VA checks that it's been done. You could do that.
God.
Or you can send someone after, like I've got a guy that works for me called Miles that checks 30% of the cleans, so the cleaners know
It's a bit of
that
a
they're gonna have to go back.
quality assurance, quality.
You don't want miles on your back.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's his first name, Jeff.
Yeah, so it's not as complicated as it seems, but yeah, there is a bit of admin work, and you just gotta you gotta get to that point where you can outsource that. But also, if your place is making money, it only costs like 800 Australian dollars a month to get a good virtual assistant working for you part time. So if you're making $500 a week from one place, you could almost get a VA. Like, I mean, you could still.
Particularly if you've got like sort of more like a couple of these 21-day stays, you'd imagine that, well, there's not a lot of work if somebody's staying 21 days. I mean, there's probably a little bit of upfront work to check them in and all that, and then at the end of it. But during the middle of the stay, there's probably not going to be too much that needs to be done.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so one lesson that I learned is, yeah, just pay for a VA like as soon as you can. Don't skimp out and think and do the work yourself because you don't want to pay $1,000 a month. Like, just get a VA as soon as you can, and because then
Sounds like you've learned from
have more
experience.
time to make more money. Yeah.
Is that what happened with you? Did you try and like juggle? Well, I mean, you had 5 properties on the go. I guess that's quite a heavy load.
Yeah, I think I had 5 or 7 or something, and it was too much work. And then I got a VA from 5 till midnight every day so I could just work 9 to 5. But I could have just gotten someone to cover the whole thing. Like, you can do it. You can even do deals with VAs. Like, you can say, I need you to just do all the guest columns from 9 a.m. till nighttime. You don't have to sit at your desk or anything. You can just message from your phone, and this is what you can get. So just like find someone to do what you need them to do.
Yeah. And just charge by the hour. Hey, you're on call, but it's if you're working for another company, you can still, type a message and no one's going to know.
Yeah. So they could. There's also VAs that have full-time jobs, and they can do a job for you on the side for cheap. Yeah.
Yeah. So what are some of the other tips of, like, what do you ask the VA to do, and what kind of experience do they need to have? Like, how do you think about hiring the right virtual assistant? So VA stands for virtual assistant, everyone, by the way.
Yeah.
Make that clear.
So there was a couple of questions. What was the tips for?
Yeah. How do we get the good ones, and what do we ask them to do for us?
Yeah. So just in addition to getting them to type the words, if they don't put 3 words in your long application, if they don't do it exactly as you say it, like put the word elephant in capitals, put the word banana with a capital B and lowercase. If they don't do it exactly perfectly, don't hire them, because I hired a guy and he seemed great in the interview, but then he didn't have attention to detail later, so it was expensive. So if they're not doing well after a couple of weeks, you need to fire quickly. Don't just put up with it. That's a lesson that I've learned. You just got to be really strict and fire quickly, and pay them for their time, like with notice. Like, don't try and screw them over.
And do you keep paying them through Upwork? Because Upwork takes like 20% or 30% or 40%.
So I do it for the first couple of months until I trust them, and then I move it off the platform, because then you've got the leverage of leaving them a bad review if they screw you over at the start or whatever. Yeah. Or you can just keep them through Upwork, and then you have, like, it's 10%, but it's to make sure that they're working, like, because you can also see their screen at random times, like with the work tracker. So it's almost worth that 10%.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they could be like watching YouTube, and you can see how many clicks they've got on their computer and stuff like that. So if you're paying them to sit at the desk and do work for you, but their activity level on the keyboard is like 0 and they're just watching YouTube, then you can say, hey, like, you can't charge me for that. Like, that's not right.
Yeah.
No, it's worth 10%.
What are some of the things what do you do? What do you do when you own an Airbnb rental? Like,
so the things that I do right now that I haven't been able to outsource yet is pricing and paying invoices.
Okay.
What else is there? And then I just sort of make sure it's running correctly. So I use Slack to communicate to the team, and then I send voice messages instead of typing to save time on
Saves you
exact stuff.
time.
Yeah.
You got to listen to it.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I have exact instructions for them to do, and they can replay it as much as they want. So that's what I do. What they do is, coordinate miles. Like, hey, can you go here and do this thing? Can they'll even book in an electrician or someone to come and fix something.
Do they jump on the phone?
Yeah. So we use Skype phone thing, like a VoIP. It's like $20 a month.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's an Australian number as well. It's like 029, etc.
Yeah.
I almost forget what they do now.
Well, if anyone has any questions about this little section talking about virtual assistants, I think this is like a whole new world to a lot of people in the property investing space, especially. Like, it's always like, you're the property investor, you outsource to a property manager, but they don't outsource like admin and stuff where you're actually managing someone to do the thing, for you. So all you do is you have the Slack. Like, what does the tech look like? You got Slack to communicate with them back and forward, and then you got Skype voice system. What else do you need?
So if you want to host on multiple platforms, you're going to need a channel manager. I use something called HostAway. A channel manager is basically a dashboard that manages your channels. So you'll have Booking.com, VRBO, Airbnb, right? So all the information within the dashboard, like you have message templates, like where can we park in this location? Yeah, here's all the places you can park. Here's the message template. Send out. So then you send it. You just have that dashboard that you're working from, and that sends the message to the relevant channel, like Airbnb, for example. Then Price Labs is plugged into that as well, and you have your markups for different channels. So you might charge 30% extra for Booking.com. You could set that within the channel manager.
Yeah.
Making sense? Yeah. Jeff, you look confused.
No, I'm not confused. We've got heaps of questions that Joe's geeking out on the tech side of things, and he's trying to. I think I can picture Joe in the next month. He's going to have set up his first Airbnb. You have to, I mean, we probably should do one, Joe. Not we, but maybe. We'll talk about it offline. But no,
we're doing Oz property. We're doing Oz property Airbnb. Where Oz property sets it up, and we just market.
No, we can't do that. But what I wanted to know, if we can go back to Joe, but you one of the questions you mentioned, or we sort of skirt around a little bit, was about self-managing versus getting someone else to manage.
Yeah.
Have you ever what are the considerations when doing this?
Yeah. So if you've only got one place, think about it logically. Is it really worth you doing it yourself and not doing a perfect job and leaving at least 20% on the table, as opposed to getting a management company to do it for you, take 20% and not leave any money on the table? So they're basically doing it for free as opposed to you doing it. And then you have this thing that you need to learn, the whole learning curve. So for anyone out there doing that, and you don't plan to do more than one or even two, I would still use a management company. It also comes down to what is that person's time worth? If they're a CEO or something that's already busy, don't bother learning Airbnb because you won't do it properly. You won't have time or the headspace to learn it. So the thing that you want to look for is the management company working for me, or are they just doing it for themselves to make their job easier and getting a big portfolio? So there's some companies out there there's some companies out there that have like a 5-night minimum stay or a 10-night minimum stay in peak season. So that's great for them. They're making like 20% of like a 10 grand booking over New Year's Eve, $2 grand for like organizing, cleaning, and sending a few messages, but they're not squeezing out. So what happens if there's a 4-night gap and their minimum stay is 5 nights, and they just have it at, oh, we don't accept 4-night stays, and that the host has no idea. The host has no idea, so they're just getting screwed over, and the management company is getting
The
a
goods.
percentage for making you less money. So you need to make sure that they're willing to squeeze out every dollar from that occupancy rate and the pricing.
So do you have to
get them
manually
to-
set this up? Because you were like, 5 weeks out, it's 5 days, then it goes to 4 days, and it goes to 3 days, then 2 days. Do you have to manually go into the platform and say, okay?
No, you do that in Price Labs. You set it in the settings, so it does it all for you. And
Yeah.
then there's a few things you have to do manually.
Like, what do you have to do manually? What
Yeah.
can't you, what can't I get software to do?
So you can do almost everything manually, but I like to do it myself in case, because, for example, you can get Price Labs to discount it last minute, but maybe it doesn't need to be discounted. So so I'll just do that myself. And a good lesson on pricing is look at what other people are charging and price yourself accurately for those exact states. So if you have the time to do that, if you've got a 4-night gap for this exact place, go on Airbnb, type in that 4-night gap, look at who you're competing against, and make sure you're priced competitively within those. Because otherwise you could be charging too much and you won't get booked at all, or charging too little and you left $500 on the table when you could have, you might have already been the cheapest in the market. So just be slightly cheaper than the next one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if a booking is going to come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
All right.
times.
Did we get off track?
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh,
Dave.
topics
No,
to
that's right.
have a management company.
Yeah. Should we
Yeah, get
use?
them to show examples of other properties and what they're earning, and make sure that what you're going to earn at the end of the day is even worth it as well.
Yeah.
Right.
And have you got like a threshold where you're like, you know what, I can't make any money on this deal? Like, where do you say, oh my gosh, this is an absolute stunner, or like this is kind of on the fence? Where do you kind of leave it? Because, like some people have like, I'm only going to buy a 5% yielding property. That's it. I mean, it's probably a flawed assumption to go to try that, but I have to make double my money. Is that your threshold? If I'm not making double my money, I'm not interested.
No, I'd probably be. So when I do my feasibility, I look at like what's the minimum that I can expect to earn per year, and what's the maximum. And if the minimum is like 20K, then I'll probably go ahead with it because that's the minimum.
How do you work out the minimum that you're going to earn? Because the minimum's not zero, but it could be close to zero, right? Like not zero, but how do you work out?
You look at what others are charging and the occupancy rate that they're doing based on like their DNA, and manually checking if how often are your competitors getting booked, and you make a calculated risk on it, and then I'm not sure how it works in different states, but if it doesn't work, you can always break the lease. So that's the worst case scenario.
Yeah, and it's just I think like all types of other, it's about having your sort of exit trades and just playing out having a free scenario. Like, what's your worst case scenario? Like, if you have to absolutely break the lease, what is it going to cost you? Versus your sort of what do you expect to happen? Versus your, like, if you hit the lights out and you get like a couple of 21 night lease, or get a number, and that's what I like to do. Just do sensitivity analysis. Do you do a bit of that as well, or just understand where you
sensitivity analysis? Do you mean?
Yeah, just to sort of like low, medium, and high, and then to sort of understand how profitable each sort of scenario analysis. I don't know what it is. What if analysis?
Yeah. I just have a range of low and high, and I'm usually pretty confident with the low. And if it's going to be worth it, then I'll go ahead. Yeah.
Onto a big. Oh, sorry, Joe. I think this one was a big one. Insurance. How does that work for you anyway? Like, do you use a broker for insurance, or you just sort of?
So the only insurer I could find, I'm not sure if it was Australia-wide or New South Wales. There was there's a lady called Veronica from Ceneta, Ceneta. She's a broker, and then they use someone called Blue Zebra for insurance. They're the only ones that I could find that could cover someone in my situation where I don't own the property. But there's quite a few options if you do own the property. One of which I think is share cover. But the last time I checked for that was like a year ago. But yeah, just give them a call, find out what's covered. The
Is
other
it
thing is,
expensive?
no, it's only like 500 to 700 a year.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah. Airbnb has something called air cover, and they cover some things, not everything. I think it's mostly damages. But it's like any insurance company. They might try and get out of it, or they might just cover everything instantly. I've heard examples of both.
I just had a look at their reviews. So, like, very typical for an insurance company, their reviews, Blue Zebra. But I think, yeah, because people are typically unhappy. Yeah, people aren't happy with insurance company.
I've never written a good review about an insurance company, that's for sure.
I've never written a review.
Actually,
so
I have travel insurance. Travel insurance direct, like flew my dad home from Fiji, he slipped and broke his hip. It was like 200K on a private jet or something like, and they were so good.
Wow.
Yeah.
They deserve it. Okay. Well, there you go. It's not, they're not,
The awards are good, guys.
not all bad. So because we've been rattling off different platforms, and I know I'm kind of taking it a different way. But what are the platforms that are mandatory must-haves? AirDNA. So what are they? What are like the top 10 toolbox tips for Airbnb people?
So I use this thing called Sane. Let me just Google to get it right. Sanebox, I think it's called. It's to manage your email. Yeah, sanebox.com. And it's basically routes your emails to a certain folder. So all my Airbnb emails go into one folder, all my invoices. It just kind of learns what each email is and routes it, because you don't want to miss emails. I use Spark for it's an app for email management, so you can have multiple emails on there. And it's just like a really nice user experience. WhatsApp for different groups with each cleaning company, and groups with my VAs, and groups with VAs and Miles. So we use that for like more urgent comms. And then we use Slack for kind of more heavy duty, longer form tasks that need a bit of back and forth. I try to avoid meetings because only 50% of the things in a meeting are actually done because it's not recorded. Then we use ClickUp for like a to-do list, and then there's an app, kind of dashboard for each employee with a due date on the task, and explanation of the task, and then they can adjust the due date on according to their schedule. So the other thing is just Google Docs and having SOPs, or a statement of process, and it's just recording everything on how to do it, how to do a particular task. One thing also is just like the most common problem in any business is when you tell someone to do something and then they don't do it. So I've got this thing called a golden keys SOP, and it just explains the exact thing on like when you receive a task. Here is the template on how to reply to it. Like, got this, James. I'll do it by this day. I know I sound like a terrible boss, but it works. So they can only reply with these three things, right? Not like, okay, we'll do, and then it's just like, well, when are they going to do it? Say when you're going to do it by, and then if you, for some reason at a later date, you get swamped with work, that's fine. Just tell me, like, I need to endorse this. I need to give this task to someone else to make sure we can get it done by the due date, or I need to get an extension on when I can do it by, stuff like that. So it's because when you're running a remote team, you're not in an office, you can't see if someone's busy or stressed. So that acts as like a threshold on, you can't say that you were too busy to do it, because then that's why I didn't do it. Because you should have said, I'm too busy, I'm sick, or whatever, which is all good. So you need to either endorse it or ask for an extension, basically, or say I need it. I can do it by this
So
date.
endorse it
That's
is give it away. Give it away to someone
Yeah.
else. So that there's some really great little tools. What are the foundational ones that you run your Airbnb business on? And we've already mentioned AirDNA. So AirDNA, what are the other ones that I must have? You must sign up to this, this, and this to run a successful Airbnb business.
There was that price one as well, which sounded
Yeah.
good.
Price Labs.
So
yeah, that looks great.
Host Away.
Yeah.
The channel manager.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the main ones actually.
AirDNA. What's Touch Stay?
Host Away, isn't it? Touch Stay.
Host Away.
Yep.
Touch Stay. I haven't heard of that. And then we had ClickUp.
Oh yeah. No, I just meant like the Airbnb specific platforms because that's obviously how you manage the team. But yeah, I just like, what am I signing up to as an Airbnb host to run my thing successfully?
Yeah, so at the start, you'll really only need Airbnb and Price Labs. Probably for the first like 6 months, you won't even list on other platforms. You don't need to overcomplicate it. You can easily just use Airbnb only.
Yeah,
that's what I did for the first couple of years, like just Airbnb. Was there a question there? Or?
Yeah.
I think so. Jen's asked a couple. I think maybe she's asked in a different way. So I like it when people are persistent. They've asked the same similar question the same way. So she said, where do you source your furniture, and do you use smart locks?
Yeah, great question. How do you give the people the keys because you're not there?
Yeah.
So for the locks, we use lock boxes. We put them outside the property. If we're allowed to attach it to the property, we'll do that and get a tradesman to screw it in so it can't be removed. Otherwise, we'll use like a bike lock and a lock box on the end of that. The bike lock and then the lock box connects it together. I use like these ones from Bunnings that are quite big. They're about $85 and they fit lots of different types of keys. And it's just got a 4-digit code. Get the sliding thing.
But then doesn't anyone just have like the 4-digit code? Sweet, I'll come back next week and I'll just get the 4-digit code.
You have to change it regularly, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
There is one.
You got to do that. Like
that's what somebody.
The cleaners do that.
Your VA can't do it. It's a physical bloody ticker tick.
Yeah, so like Miles is like the hands and legs of the VAs basically. So they use him to do stuff.
So that was a question that someone had, was talking about Mr. Miles. Hey James, you've covered how you pay your VAs, but how do you answer
the other question?
How do you pay
furniture? Where do you source your furniture?
Oh god, now we're going.
Do I use smart locks? No, because I do a lot of apartments, and you need a key for the front door, so it has to be a lockbox outside.
Yep.
Where do I get my furniture? It just depends what I need at the time. I'll search it online, and then you can see like the cheapest option online. You know what's also good for furniture? Honey browser. It's an extension. It gives you discount codes for
Honey.
Log in. Yeah, and it shows you. It runs it and it checks is there any discount codes on the entire internet, and then it applies it. It's so good. For art, I use society6.com, and then you can get specific art custom printed with custom frame for like $150, like this sort of size. Ships out from somewhere and it's there in like 10 days or so. I think Temple and Webster I might have used, but yeah, I just go to whatever I need for that property. I don't use any particular ones other than like IKEA, mydeal.com.au and catch.com.au. What was the other question then?
Well, one of the questions was the eyes and ears on the ground, like the boots on the ground type of person. How do you kind of pay? How do you think about paying that person? And how do you get a Miles? Like that sounds like a pretty crappy job and tough and time consuming. Like how do we think about that role?
So he only has to work a couple of hours a day, and he likes to surf, so he doesn't mind actually. And it's better than like
and somebody's
a cafe job or something like that. So yeah, I pay him $40 an hour. I found him through the local Facebook group. You can also find them through Airtasker. by the way, you can also find people to go to inspections in another state for you. Or if you're too lazy to wake up early on a Saturday for inspections, find someone that is like in their mid-30s at least that can wear a suit and rock up on your behalf and say, yeah, I'm Derek from Jeff's company.
From Punchbowl.
We love this place. You know what I mean? I got a guy to do that for me, like, so I didn't have to knock out on Friday night. You can define whatever deal you want with that person. You might be able to find someone that doesn't need a retainer. Miles is on a retainer because I've got the scale, but you can find other people that just do Airtasker work, piecework, and
there is great people on
availability.
Airtasker. It can be hit and miss, but yeah, once you kind of sort of can sift through them eventually.
Yeah, you make the first booking through them, then you deal with them direct thereafter.
Yeah. This has been unreal. Throw some questions, people. There's a lot in here to go through, so I hope you don't mind.
I'm interested in this one because this is a bit maybe not controversial, but it says, how reliable is AirDNA? Are you sure Airbnb doesn't pump the publicly scrapable data? I mean, that's very cynical, though. I mean, would they actually
make their own business look better?
Publicly scrapable data on their website. Well, the data is live, and that's what people can see, and that they can book. So,
yeah,
you can't change what reality is, because if I'm going to book a place and it's that price, Airbnb can't change what the price and availability is. It has to be true. Yeah. So they're scraping real data.
Yeah, and if you list it at 500 and it's on there for 520, you're like, why is that 520? I said 500. It's going to not make any sense.
Yeah, and how reliable is it? It's pretty reliable, but that's why you work with looking at following the strategy that I mentioned earlier. You can watch the replay on checking Airbnb itself to cross-check that data on AirDNA to see how true it is. So you use them both in tandem, not just one.
And so one of the things I want to think about is I want to look at over years of Airbnb because it's been out here for ages now. Can I do that? Like, where in Cronulla is the hotspot for where bookings and rentals are, and where do people not go? Like, is there a way to look all the way back from all suburbs in Australia?
So my understanding is AirDNA helps you look at the past, and then the Airbnb strategy helps you verify that that's going to continue happening in the future and is still happening right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, you just look at enough places. Maybe there'll be a cluster of places around a particular area that seem to be doing better than others. Like for example, Byron Bay, Watergoss Beach would have like premium properties that have that kind of the market. And then
next door to Chris Hemsworth, maybe.
Yeah, and then maybe in the town centre, it'd be more apartments, and then as you get further away, it'd be cheaper houses that are away from the beach. So there's different kind of markets in each area.
Because I guess what I'm looking for is seasonality. Because Cronulla is going to be great during the summer, but during the winter, there's not going to be many bookings. So I want to see what my full 12-month scope looks like to be able to ascertain what my value is over that period of time.
So the default setting on Airbnb for a host is 12 months availability. And if you see someone's prices and they're charging $149 a night for all of the next month, they're not using Price Labs, but if they're charging different numbers for each night, they've probably got a pricing manager. And then you can check, okay, they're charging this much in June and July. What about summer? Is it drastically different? Is it all random numbers? They're probably Price Labs numbers, which are pretty close to reality. And then you can see, okay, what about next winter as well? See how well they're booking this winter since it's already winter. You can see, is there some dates booked already in summer? How many dates are booked? If there's a lot of them, maybe they've undercharged. They could have charged more. You can see the gaps in between of what those dates probably booked at, and just get a picture of the whole year like that.
So how many Airbnbs would you own before you turn it into a business and start thinking about VAs and stuff? So unit one, you're outsourcing it because you're paying the 20% because you're just too much work. Two, you outsource. Is it get to like 3 or 4 where you're like, you know what, actually, let's just hire the VA and get them to do it all because that 20% that I'm giving these guys is way too much? Or how do you think?
It all depends. It all depends what you're already doing with your life. If you're already making like 100K and working 9 to 5, then you shouldn't manage it at all, because then you're going to be working more than 9 to 5. So you should just get a management company, even if you've got 5. So it's up to how much time you've already got. Because if you're already working 9 to 5, you're probably not going to have the bandwidth to do it properly. You know, or if you plan to quit your 9 to 5, then and scale to 10, it depends what your goals are as well. So then you'd probably want to be involved learning it so that you can properly outsource to your own VA. And because basically what I've done is I've built my own management company to manage my properties, so I keep that 20 or 30% that someone would do.
Yeah, and you're much more efficient with managing your own money than somebody else, paying somebody else to manage your sort of asset or whatever it is. So you're probably paying, I don't know, 5 or 10%.
So this is a great question that's come up. What do you do to protect yourself from mass cancellations? If anything, example, COVID lockdowns, 10 properties with no rent coming in, cancellation policies. So how do you think about, well, actually, how did you do over COVID? And then how do you think about this?
So over COVID, Airbnb unilaterally overrode the strict cancellation policy in the interest of keeping the community safe. But they put, basically, host paid for that whole thing. So I just had my calendars completely wiped. Luckily, I was multi-platform, so I had strict cancellation policies on some, and that helped me get through. But I had to scramble, get places rebooked, rent them out long term. So it was a tough time. So basically, now what my goal is to be, well, I already am multi-platform, and I'm also getting direct bookings where I can enforce my own cancellation policy. So guests are told you're not going to get a refund under any circumstances.
Not even
we remind them after they book. No, we say that they must have travel insurance to cover that. We remind them after they book. So yeah, it's just part and parcel. It's like I've taken on the risk to get these places, etc. And then if we decide later, like, you know, maybe we give them a credit or something like that, we can do that at a later date. But everything is then locked in at like our own terms, not just like Airbnb's terms. So the goal of anyone to grow the business is to get direct bookings, so you control your own destiny, basically.
How do you get direct bookings? Like, what do you have your website?
You have your website. You have your logo in your profile. Some people are smart enough to then Google that company name and book direct on your website. You could also gain an Instagram following. If you have like unique places, you can build up a bit of a following on Instagram.
Stickers in there.
What about TikTok? Why not TikTok, mate? Couldn't you get Miles to do a video from out the front of his? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. There's unlimited stuff you can do. I'm also going to look at Facebook ads to try and target people that have just booked a flight to Sydney, to try and get them to book on my website. By the way, HostAway powers my website, so I just got a developer to make a website on a custom sort of theme, and then HostAway plugs into that site. So it's kind of like the back end of the website, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so you're just a pretty overlay over the top of HostAway.
Yeah, you can also automatically generate a website from HostAway and have an actual domain name like .com as the URL, but it's probably not going to show up in search. So you could just put it in your Instagram bio and people can book direct on that. Yeah. By the way, also, if you have a really good experience, like lots of 5-star stays, you can like tell guests, you know, refer your friends, etc. So there is one guy that I know that gets like 70% direct bookings, and a lot of them are like return people. He hasn't got anything other than a 5-star review on his places. That's how good they are. He's got an Instagram and a link in the bio, and people just book like that.
There you go. I think this is an interesting one. It's a bit more kind of admin in the weeds, but Reese, and this question was ages ago, he said, what is your experience like with ongoing maintenance on the properties? Do you put a percentage aside? Like, how do you sort of think about that?
Typically, if it's just standard wear and tear, or, you know, the tap in the tap is dripping or something, the real estate agent would sort it out with the owner, and it doesn't occur more than more than a long-term tenant, so it's just the same.
Yep. Okay. So it sounds like it's not really much of an issue for and might be isolated things here or there, but yeah, it's not really that much of an issue for you with your sublet.
Yeah, because the overall use of the place is less because they're out there sightseeing. They're not really using the kitchen, so on average, it's less.
Done. There you go.
So how much money is there in doing this Airbnb arbitrage? So it costs 20 grand up front to get all the furniture, fit this sucker out. Like, what realistically am I thinking if I'm doing this for one property? Like, what's the realistic number?
So 20K is like pretty achievable from one place, and then once you've got 5, that's 100K, and then 10, 200K, and you can just keep going as much as you want.
And what makes like how do I find the best performance? Like, what is something that is the absolute creme de la creme? Is it location that is the best thing? Is it the undersupply? Is there a large demand for Airbnbs? And like, that's where I'm going to inject mine, or like, how do you think?
So the things that seem to be consistent. So obviously anything can work, as I mentioned, like the caravan in Ibiza, but things that seem to be consistent across successful Airbnbs are something unique. So it might be a view, or it might be the type of renovation, or it might be that it has been renovated in the last 10 or 15 years at least. Then you've got the furniture, which is more in your control with rental arbitrage, which is what I focus on because I can't renovate the properties. Location is key as well. Like with anything, the closer you are to something that people want to see, like the city center or the beach, the more you can charge. And that's all of them really. Those are the main things. If something is really unique, then you can charge through the roof for it because there's nothing comparable.
Wow.
And also the view, you can't put a price on it, so you can charge so much more. And with a view, you don't. Let's say a place without a view would rent for 600 a week, or a place with a view would be 1,000 a week. You're getting the margin on the expensive place without the place actually being bigger or more difficult to manage or whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't cost anything more furniture-wise.
Yeah. And they're going to have a better experience, so your reviews will be better.
5-star reviews, yeah.
Yeah, so basically you just want to get a place that has a chance to get 5-star reviews. Like if it's on a main road or stuff like that, then you try to avoid that because you want to choose a place from the get-go that at least has the chance to get 5-star reviews so that you can then put it into place to make sure it does continue to get that.
Yeah. Man, this has been an unreal session. I feel like this is like just kind of scratch the itch for people to understand. Like, I feel like you've removed a lot of the objections that I've had about Airbnb myself. And you've
given,
there is
a few there, Joe. Jeez,
there's really a lot of objections to it, but you answered them all like in a way that makes perfect sense. It's like, there is still opportunity here, and all it is just going onto some of these platforms and looking to see if it is. But how do people? You mentioned you have a course, and I haven't done it. But can you tell us about it? Give us a bit of a run through and how it all works, because I'm not going to sit here and go watch 100 YouTube videos. I don't have time for that. You've got a course, or you're the mentor. Give us a run through. What's it look like?
Yeah, so go to Profit with Bnb on Instagram. It's just Profit with Bnb, one word. And I've got a bunch of free stuff on there. I've also got a free live training in the bio, or you can just go straight to profitwithbnb.com. A lot of course sellers, they just have a BS thing that doesn't actually teach anything. But it's actually me teaching how I do this stuff like for 1 hour, including like feasibility. I look at like example on Surface Paradise or something, and like, okay, look at this, like this place looks like it's good, etc. And then just DM me there if you've got any questions. Happy to help out with a couple of free advice on your situation. And I've got a video course, and we do like live calls and help out people that are looking to get started in Airbnb, basically.
I dropped the training video because it can be a bit the profit with Bnb one, because if you just Google it, it's you'll end up going down another rabbit hole.
Oh yeah. If I type in the chat, should I put in the comments?
It's already done.
That's all right. I've already done it for you. I put your Insta plus your website page, or it looks like a landing page, I think. But it might be, people can get their feel there. But do people have any more questions? Because we have this person has been doing this since, what is this person? James has been doing it since 2016. So, and you've been, I think you said you manage what, 80 properties
70?
or something?
70 of the suckers.
Yeah,
70 different properties
in that.
And which do you prefer doing? Do you want to lean more into the management side of things, or do you want to acquire more? Like, how's it?
Yeah. One of the questions I saw in the pre-thing was, where do I want to take it? So I've taken it where I want to go. So I earn good money, and I'm time free, location free. So I've achieved my goal. Now I just I'm doing a course with like making music, learning from one of my favorite artists. So my goal is to try and play at Shire in Ibiza one day. That's my goal. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You listen to Club Life with the podcast. It's on my list. He's playing it. I think he's playing it.
Is that a DJ? Club Life?
Yeah. Oh no. It's the it's a podcast from. I'm just trying to see which one I've got on my phone here. It's
it's a podcast. Anyway? It's a podcast about techno music. Techno.
I'll check it out.
When you say profitable configuration, what does that mean? Does that mean like a 1x1 or 1x2?
Does this make sense? What is your most profitable configuration? Does that make? I don't understand that. There was a comment there, right? What is your most profitable configuration? So I guess how would you? Okay, so you're Joe, right? What do I do now? I mean, what should I kind of think about?
So if you have no money, then you can get started with management deals. This is more delving into how to get started if you've got no money. But you have to bring your time and skills to the table. So you have to have the skills. So you need to do a course to bring that to the table. Or you could watch it. You could do it on YouTube as well. But there's going to be so much conflicting stuff, and it's going to take longer. So it's just up to how much do you value your time to get started. If you've got money and you want to quit your 9-to-5, I would get started with rental arbitrage. That's how I quit my 9-to-5, so I would do that again. I started with management deals, but I eventually did rental arbitrage soon after. Rental arbitrage is my favorite because the margins are so much better. Because with management, remember the owner is still keeping almost everything, like 80%. So even if you have a great month where you make 20K in 1 month from a great place, you're only getting 4K. Whereas if you were renting that place for $1,500 a week or something, you're keeping like 14K or something.
That makes sense.
So you get more rewarded for your work if you do that.
Unreal.
And if you've got a property,
somebody's asked.
Watch my free training video, see if you can figure out if it's good for Airbnb. And if you just want to rent out that property on Airbnb, talk to a management company, see if they agree with your feasibility, see if they can give you an estimate.
That's actually a really good point.
I wasn't going to ask this one, Joe, because it's from Mike Larry. You caught up with a beer with Mike and Brendan. And I mean, of course, Mike would say Sydney is the top 5 locations. Like number 1 is Sydney and number 5 is Sydney. That's what Mike would say, because he's the Sydney is king bloke. So yeah, but no, is there? I think it kind of depends, though, doesn't it, James? Like what would you?
I have no idea, but it just comes down to the feasibility, like how much, what multiple can you get? I don't think Sydney would be like crazy better than others. Like Stockholm gets a good multiple. I'm sure all the capital cities in Australia get a good multiple. Otherwise, people wouldn't be doing Airbnb for like a 20% margin. There's also unique places like in the countryside as well are doing well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So don't focus on like top 5 or what's the best apartment or anything like. Look at the feasibility in your area where you want to host. Do a bit of research yourself. See if you can find some like diamonds in the rough and copy those diamonds to get some profitable places.
Love this. Awesome, James. Thank you very much for running this session. If anyone does want to learn more, profitwithbnb.com, and
I'd go
to
Insta as well. But yeah, I mean, all that good stuff's at Insta.
Go to Instagram.
Yeah, follow the Insta. Message me there if you got any questions. I'll reply. And there's heaps of other videos on there as well, like tips. Probably a bunch of stuff we haven't covered for sure.
Yeah, anything else you wanted to cover off, James? Anything that we've kind of, fundamentally missed?
No, I think that's all good.
That was a cracking.
If anyone has other questions, message me on Insta. I'll answer them there.
Yeah, that was awesome. Cool. Thank you very much, James. Everyone's loving it. We'll post this on YouTube. So if anyone has any other kind of, like and subscribe, all that stuff. But
drop the YouTube in the, maybe I can I'll get it first.
Not a great session. You get it, mate. Okay, let's go buy an Airbnb property. See you guys later. Have a good one.
See you guys. Thanks for that.